Welcome to the Patriots Pulse Preview Show. I'm your host, John Saranitas, and as always, I'm joined by my partner, John Sapichetti. John, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Happy Week 7.
Happy Week 7, and it is hard to believe that it is already Week 7. Patriots completing a 3-game road trip today when they visit the 1-5 Tennessee Titans. And John, on paper, the Patriots are now back in a position where we could start talking about winnable games. For the last couple of years, they've been the winnable game on team schedules. Thus far this season, they're 4-2 in first place in the AFC East. They have flipped the script, if you will. They are now playing teams that we could consider beatable, and we could consider the game winnable. Is this game as winnable as we think it is? Are they at a place now under first-year coach Mike Vrabel where we could say Tennessee's 1-5, they just fired their coach, they're starting a rookie quarterback, Patriots should go into Tennessee as a 7-point favorite and take care of business?
I believe they're going to win today, but I also think that Tennessee can certainly cover the 7 points. This is the largest the Patriots have been a favorite on the road since 2019 when they went down to Miami in Week 2 with Tom Brady and Antonio Brown and put up basketball numbers. So this is a different situation for the New England Patriots. They're the better team than Tennessee. Tennessee, you can make a case, is the worst team in football. I think New Orleans, who the Patriots played last week, put up a good battle, is probably slightly better than Tennessee. Now you're going against a team with a brand new head coach. There is sometimes a bounce when you replace the head coach with an interim coach and a team gets fired up and decides it's going to play one of its better games. I think they're going to be fine, the Patriots, but this is not going to be an easy game, John. I don't believe so. You've got the weather factor also where rain is involved in Nashville. So this could be kind of an ugly game. But I believe the Patriots are now starting to get that mindset that they're going to go in, win this, continue to stay in first place, and then start to look close at the second half of their schedule.
Yeah, and when you look at this game on paper, it really is a matchup game because while Tennessee is 1-5, remember, this is a team that last offseason invested a lot of money in free agency. On paper, they do have some high-end talent here. You talk about Jeffrey Simmons at defensive tackle. He's one of the best in the league. He is currently tied for the league lead in sacks by an interior defensive lineman with 4.5. You got L'Jarius Sneed at corner. Calvin Ridley, who's out today at wide receiver. Tony Pollard at running back. So this is a team that last offseason, not this past offseason, but the previous offseason when they hired Brian Callahan, who they terminated this week, when they hired Callahan, they spent a lot of money in free agency. So while, yes, in theory, they're one of the worst teams in the league, they're not a good football team. On paper, this is a team that certainly has enough talent, especially if the weather is a factor, if you're not executing, if you get off to a slow start. To your point, John, this is a team that could make life tough on the Patriots. This game could be a tighter game than Patriot fans want. And I think it's important that, and we say this every week because it really genuinely is important every week, but I do think it's important for the Patriots to get off to a good start here. They need to get off to a good start, just like we've seen the last few weeks, score first, set the tone, carry the play, if you will, the old hockey analogy, and make them have to play from behind. Because, look, it's not easy. I don't care that Mike McCoy's on the staff. It's not easy going to a new head coach who thinks differently, who may approach situations differently. It's not easy on the offense. It's not easy on the team. And then on top of that, you're talking about a rookie quarterback here who's only thrown 3 touchdown passes. He's struggled at times. If the Patriots can get on them early and play ahead, they should take care of business. But that's going to be key. They can't fall behind in this one. They fell behind last week. It didn't prove to be an issue. But I get the sense, especially if the weather's a factor, can't fall behind this week.
You mentioned the player that I think could blow this game up for the Patriots. And again, I think they're going to win. But Jeffrey Simmons is one of the very best players in this league. He essentially is Chris Jones without Tony Romo doing all of his games. I mean, he's a sensational player.
There we go, Jim.
Look at him. Look at Chris Jones with the swim move, Jim. Man.
And Cam Ward's not good enough to get glazed by Chris Collinsworth. I mean, that's only reserved for that's only reserved for Patrick Mahomes. Mike, I'll tell you. Anyway, go ahead. We just wanted to throw in those impressions.
Yeah, we got some more coming up later on in the show. But Simmons is a fantastic player. We know the Patriots haven't been able to run the football. To illustrate that, let's use the Buffalo Bills as context. The Patriots 2 weeks ago in their win over Buffalo had 22 carries, 71 yards, 3.2 yards per carry. That's not very good at all. The other 5 games, Buffalo's given up an average of 28 rushes, 174 yards, 6.2 yards per carry in those other 5 games that they've played. So essentially, the 5 other games, the running backs or the running game of the opposition has looked like Saquon Barkley from last year. Whereas the Patriots, that 1 week, they won week 4 win over the Buffalo Bills. Their running attack looked like, I don't know, Marion Butts or whoever, someone from 1994 that couldn't run. So their running game is really an issue, which just leads me to believe what a job Drake May and that offense is doing, because they're still being very effective and efficient with the passing game, despite not having a running game.
Yeah, and again, I think that's going to be the plan again this week. When you look at this Tennessee secondary, they give up the 4th most yards in terms of big plays. And they give up about a 50% completion rating on vertical pass plays, and they've given up 222 yards on vertical pass plays. So this is a defense that, despite having L'Jarius Sneed, is vulnerable vertically. You can attack them in the passing game. Now, again, as we mentioned earlier, the weather could be a factor today. We'll see. But the Patriots really do need to get this running game going. It's a problem. And if you're going to be, I still hesitate to call them a Super Bowl contender, because I'm not sure they're there. But if you're going to be a playoff team, a playoff contender, this passing game has to be, running game rather, has to be much better. It can't be this. This isn't good enough.
No, because you're putting too much pressure on the quarterback, and he's responded this year with a sensational season. But what happens when you're up 6 points, or you're up even 8 points, and you want to run a 4-minute offense and you can't execute that? That's what you need to do to kind of seal these games off. Last week against New Orleans, when the Patriots were trying to run a 4-minute offense, what got them to get to the situation where they could kneel? A 3rd and 11 pass from Drake May that was sensational along the sideline. And that kept the clock moving, and that essentially led to 3 kneels and a victory. So you've got to get that running game going. It doesn't have to be the Eagles of last year or the Cowboys of '93, but it has to be good enough that it continues to set that play action up. And I really want to ask you this too, because this is something that you hear debated on Twitter or whatever. You could still run play action if you don't have a dominant run game. Is this correct?
Yeah, you can. I mean, it's not solely dependent on how you run the football. It's just that your play action passing game will be more effective if you're running the football, because now you can influence the way defenders, how they read things and how they play. So yeah, you can run play action the entire game without running a single running play, but it won't be as effective as it could be if you've established a running game.
Yeah, that sounds good, because you look at the Patriots last week, their first touchdown against the Saints was a thing of beauty, right? Schemed up by Josh McDaniels. You had kind of the play action going to one side. Then Drake May booted to the right and then hit a wide open Pop Douglas for a touchdown. But that was just a perfectly designed play by Josh McDaniels, a 2-man route. And because the play action held the defense at bay just long enough that Drake May was able to set and throw.
Yeah, and that's an old West Coast offense concept. It's a big shot play in the modern West Coast offense. And, you can make the argument perhaps that's Thomas Brown's influence on this offense now, and where they're incorporating more outside ideas. Not that we didn't used to see shot plays when Tom Brady was here and they were good during the dynasty years. Obviously we did, particularly in plus territory, but I think you're seeing more of a willingness now. You're seeing some of those elements of the modern West Coast offense in this offense, and that was one example of it last week. And again, given Tennessee's struggles this year against the vertical passing game, one would think that will be featured heavily in this week's game plan as well. Of course, that, again, could be dependent upon what the weather does. If the rain ends up becoming a factor down there, then obviously you will have to adjust your game plan as you go along. We talked a little bit about Drake May last week, and obviously he's now becoming a national darling. All of a sudden, everybody saw this coming. I mean, it was only a matter of time. And, I take him over Caleb. I don't know if I take him over Jaden Daniels, but I take him over this guy, and I take him over that guy. And it's amazing, right, what 3 weeks of good play will do. But I will say this, John. I think people need to pump the brakes with this guy. I've been saying it now for a couple of weeks. It's great that he's developing at this rate. It's great that he is becoming the quarterback we were hoping he would become when they drafted him. But let's keep it real with the expectations. Let's pump the brakes. Let's let this young man continue to mature and develop because, I mean, look, I hate to say it. I hate to burst people's bubble. He's going to have a couple bad games this season. He's not going to finish this season playing perfect or flawless or playing even to the level that he's been playing this season or at least the last 4 weeks. So I think it's important to keep things in perspective here. And again, I think Drake May is the kind of player that to me can handle the pressure and the expectations. I don't think that it affects him, but I do think that we need to slow down a little bit here and be a little bit more pragmatic and realistic about his development, where he is, and what we think he could become. Let's not rush this. He's on his way. He's an ascending player. He's on his way to becoming a franchise quarterback. But I think too many people the last few weeks, John, have been so quick to put him in the upper echelon of the league. And again, he's still a young player. He's only 23 years old. We really need to pump the brakes.
One national show actually went through the exercise of, would you keep your quarterback or trade him or the situation for Drake May over the next 5 years? And they only had 5 quarterbacks or 5 teams that would keep their current quarterback over Drake May. That's a bit much at this point, right? So now we're saying he's the 6th best quarterback in football. He may get there at some point. I don't know. But you have to do more than have 3 or 4 consecutive games where you play at a very high level, because there are going to be games when you don't have it. Your offensive line isn't protecting. The defense you're playing is really, really tough. They're causing some problems. And now you have to adjust and make good on that. That's why the top quarterbacks are the top quarterbacks. They very rarely, if ever, have bad games. That's the difference between the top guys and everyone else. You don't generally see those guys have bad games. And we'll see how Drake May evolves. I think he could be a top 10 quarterback. We both agree with that. I was later to the party than you. You loved him coming out of college. I didn't. But now we're seeing why you liked him so much, of all the ability that he has. But let's not say that we would take him over whoever at this point, because he's looked good the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, and again, it's not, sometimes it's hard. I mean, I've been covering the NFL draft for 25 years, and it's easy to take victory laps when you're right, especially about the quarterback position. But the reality is, coming into that draft, the reason why I was so high on him and I had him rated as my number 1 quarterback was the skill set, the age and the skill set. And I felt that no matter what situation he ended up in, if he had the right staff and he was given time to develop, because remember, like we said, he only started 26 games in college, so he didn't have much of a body of work, not at least compared to Jane Daniels, who started 55. If he ended up in the right situation, and when you look at the top 3 teams that were picking in that draft, Chicago, Washington, New England, all 3 of those could have been the right situation. Obviously, the level of success that these quarterbacks were going to experience was going to largely depend on who's coaching them and the skill group around them. All of that, and their offensive line, obviously. But all that being said, he is progressing at a pace that, even in my opinion, is exceeding where I thought he would be right now. I didn't think he would be this good right now. But again, I think it's important, and I think you said it perfectly. You can't measure where he's going to be based on 3 or 4 games. You really need to give it the rest of this season. And then at the end of this season, we can revisit this conversation and say, okay, is he where we thought he should be? Is he further along? Did he plateau? Did he take a step back? We have to get through this season before we can realistically have a conversation like this.
I mean, Justin Herbert's been in the league 6 years now. Is he a top 5 quarterback? Skill set wise, I think he is. He's also been god awful in his 2 playoff appearances. He looks like deer caught in headlights. He's thrown, I believe, 7 interceptions in 2 playoff games. So do we put him as one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league? As I said, skill set wise, perhaps, but I wouldn't put him there because of what his performance has been like in the postseason. So we judge quarterbacks differently than we judge everyone else, for sure. But I've been so impressed with the sudden leap by Drake May. It is similar, and again, we don't want to compare him to Josh Allen because they're different types of players. But Josh Allen, his rookie year, he looked like he had no idea how to play quarterback. If you were sitting anywhere in the lower bowl at Foxborough, you might get hit with a football, an errant football
And
from
Drake
Josh
May,
Allen.
in my opinion, was much better as a rookie than Josh Allen was.
Yes, absolutely. Considering Josh Allen went to a playoff
Drake
team.
May's biggest issue last year, John, was the turnovers. And we said going into this offseason, the number one thing that the Patriots need to fix, especially after Vrabel got hired and then McDaniels, the number one thing they need to focus on is working with him to protect the football. If they do that, everything else will fall into place. It's happened the last few weeks.
Josh Allen went to a 9-7 team that qualified for the playoffs the year he was drafted. But the year before he was drafted, Drake May went to arguably the worst team in football when he was drafted by the Patriots in 2024. The things that just have blown me away, I mean, you could tell the arm talent, the movement, the athletic ability. You've told me that you're down there all the time. You see how his teammates connect with him. That's so important for a quarterback. But the things I've really seen improvement on, footwork, pocket presence, two huge components of playing the position. That's why we've got to give Josh McDaniels a lot of credit. If we're going to blame Matt Patricia and Joe Judge for nearly ruining Mac Jones after Mac Jones had a good rookie year with Josh McDaniels, we also have to give Josh McDaniels credit this year for the growth of Drake May, because he's obviously had a massive effect on that. Drake May, I think, is a top 10 quarterback. He's on the periphery of maybe being an MVP candidate, but we do have to pump the brakes at some point and not put him up there with the top 4 or 5 quarterbacks who have done it much longer and are much more consistent. I want to see this week in, week out where he's playing at a high level.
Yeah, and you know I'm a big Josh McDaniels fan from an offensive coordinator standpoint. I mean, Josh needs to get his flowers here. He's done a tremendous job with this kid. And listen, again, I'll reiterate what I've said all along. I don't give a shit what he did in Denver. I don't give a crap what he did in Las Vegas. At the end of the day, when it comes to being an offensive coordinator, developing a quarterback, coaching a quarterback, Josh McDaniels, in my opinion, is as good as there is in the league. I'll go that far. Yes. Is he Andy Reid? Probably not. But if whatever that next tier is, I would slot Josh McDaniels in that tier. I think he's that good a coach, and I think you're seeing the difference he's making. Look, you brought it up earlier. Mac Jones had a terrific year his rookie year in 2021. He was a Rookie of the Year candidate, okay, through 23 touchdown passes, almost 4,000 yards. We were all sitting there at the end of that season saying, okay, they went 10-7. Sure, they got blown out in the first round of the playoffs, but they have their quarterback of the future. They have a potential franchise quarterback in Mac Jones. We went from that to Mac Jones being an embarrassment to where he threw a lob interception in Germany to lose a game against the Colts. Okay, and a lot of that, a lot of his regression is tied to coaching and how the coaching wasn't good enough. Even Bill O'Brien, as good a coach as Bill O'Brien is offensively, he couldn't get Mac back on track because of how bad 2022 was. Now, again, I've been one of the few people that have defended Matt Patricia because I do think that Patricia's a good coach, a good defensive coach. You're seeing it at Ohio State now. If Ohio State goes back-to-back, Matt Patricia will play a big part in that, in the job he's done as defensive coordinator there. Ken Matthias joins the show. You know what his nickname is on the show, the mighty Ken Matthias. How confident are the both of you heading into Mike Vrabel's return that the Patriots can win in Nashville, bearing what's happened with the Titans this week? Well, we haven't even touched on that. And Ken, thank you for checking in as always. We appreciate it. I'm glad you checked in. Mike Vrabel's return. All week long, the team, Vrabel himself, the players have kind of downplayed it, which we knew they would, as they should. Is it a big deal to Vrabel? I think personally it probably is. Is Vrabel going to come out publicly, or are the players going to come out publicly and say, oh, this means a lot to Vrabes. We got to go down there and win it for him. No, like he said this week, I'm not going to sit here and give the guys a win one for the Gipper speech. They don't need to go down there and win this game for me. We need to go down there and win this game, period. And I think that's the right approach. That's the right messaging. It's not about avenging his firing. It's about winning the game, improving to 5-2, getting out of it healthy, and keeping pace in the AFC.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be much of a factor. They have the better team. I'm sure that Tennessee ownership, if they show up to the game, because they live in Texas, but if they show up to the game and look
one
across,
of the worst owners in the league,
without question.
Her father had his moments of being a bad owner.
Oh,
but
yeah.
She's worse.
She's bad. She's really bad. I mean, she can look across the field and say, oh, I had that guy as my coach. He's one of the top 7 or 8 coaches in the league, and I fired him because I didn't like the way he acted around people. Mike Vrabel's proven this year already how good a coach he is. And the thing that impressed me so much about Vrabel is he got fired by Tennessee after the 2023 season. What did he do? He went and worked for the Cleveland Browns and started to learn all of football. I mean, he obviously has a great football IQ, but he started to work on offensive line, defensive line, everything else, special teams, so that he'd be prepared to be a head coach and a better head coach. And that's what he is right now. A lot of guys, when they get fired, they may want to just sit on the couch and watch cartoons, or they go to the media, where I think Mike Vrabel, by the way, would be fantastic.
Wait a minute. Whoa. Hold on there now. Who gets fired and sits on the couch and watches cartoons? Unless they're watching them with their kids, I don't see any adult. What is he watching? Adult Swim on the Cartoon Network? Why is he watching cartoons?
I don't watch cartoons. I don't have any kids, but I mean,
I'm just thinking coaches who got fired watch cartoons either. Unless they're watching them with their kid, they're probably doing something else.
Okay. All right. Well, so
anyway, I digress. Go ahead.
Hyperbolic. I get it. I can't badmouth any coaches because you get very sensitive. I get that. So, but Vrabel went to work and said, "I'm going to become a better coach. Let me go to Cleveland and learn a lot of things." Right. And he did. And now he's even a better coach than before. Most will go into media. And Vrabel, by the way, will be spectacular in media in 10, 12 years if he decides to go that way. Tennessee is just a complete wreck. I mean, they have been for many, many years. I mean, I think it's one of the most irrelevant franchises in the NFL. You can make a case that's the most irrelevant.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree.
I mean,
any given year, it probably comes down to them and the Jacksonville Jaguars.
And
they're
Carolina,
both in the same
maybe.
division.
Yeah,
in Carolina. It's that part of the country. Yeah, the Southeast.
Something's going on. Yeah, something's going on in that division.
Yeah, those 3 teams.
Yeah, so I just think that it's going to be somewhat of a factor, but Vrabel will have this team prepared. The matchups should be good because the Tennessee offense is putrid, John. I know we'll touch on that. It is one of the worst offenses we've seen in the last 5 to 10 years.
How putrid are they? Why don't we talk about it now? I mean, I mentioned earlier, Cam Ward's only thrown 3 touchdown passes, which is historically bad for the first 6 games of a quarterback's career. Although I will say this, when you look at the list of guys that he's on, when you look at the list he's on in terms of that number, the other guys, Terry Bradshaw, John Elway, those guys didn't throw a touchdown pass in their first 6 games. So he's actually he's probably not as bad as we think, or he hasn't played as bad as we think.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's just a bad team. The offensive line is not that good. They did spend some capital on that. They had Bill Callahan.
More. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they had Bill Callahan, the offensive line coach, who is among the very best offensive line coaches of the last 20 years. That didn't get as much out of them as you would expect. But as far as that offense, averaging 14 points per game, here's the numbers that just blew me away. They're averaging 232 yards per game. The league average is 329. So they're 97 yards below the league average in terms of offensive yards per game. They're averaging this. I couldn't believe I had to check it 3 different times. 3.9 yards per play, 3.9 yards per play. I'll say it in English. That is, I didn't think that was possible, John. The next closest is Cleveland at 4.1 yards, and then everybody else is 4.7 and beyond. They average 3.9 yards per play, 232 yards total offense. Compare that to Bijan Robinson, the great running back for the Atlanta Falcons, who should be in the MVP discussion, but won't because it's a quarterback award. He's averaging 21 touches per game for 174 yards per game. 8.5 yards per touch. That's just one guy. He's almost gaining as many yards as this Tennessee offense. This Tennessee offense is historically bad.
Yeah, they are. And again, it's part of the reason why Brian Callahan was fired. Mike McCoy, again, named the interim coach. Look, the Patriots defense today should not have a tough time. Their pass rush has been pretty good all year. It should get there consistently against Cam Ward. They've been terrific against the run. Tony Pollard's a good back, not a great back. They should be able to control the line of scrimmage and keep him relatively in check. If they don't play well defensively today, it'll be because of breakdowns. It'll be because of miscommunication. It'll be because of poor fundamentals. It's not going to be because of matchups. They have an inherent advantage in a lot of the matchups going into this game today, specifically up front. Outside of Jeffrey Simmons on Tennessee's defense and what he could potentially do, and he's going to be a problem today at various points. He is a game wrecker. Other than him, when you flip it and you look at their offensive line versus this Patriots defensive line, again, the Patriots should have a lot of advantageous one-on-one matchups there with Milton Williams and Barmore and Landry, who was questionable this week but should play, Caleb on, Chase on. They should be able to get after Cam Ward pretty good. And one thing we've seen with Cam Ward this season, and when I watched some film on them this week, he holds the ball, he overprocesses, he vacates too soon in certain situations, and as good as he was in college at throwing on the run, and that was one of his strengths, he's making some bad decisions in the NFL when he throws on the run. So clearly he's still adjusting to the speed of the game. But, yeah, they're putrid on offense. Their defense has talent. Their defense could give the Patriots offense some problems, but it's not going to be enough. Again, the Patriots would have to play really poorly to lose this game today. This Tennessee team stole one a couple weeks ago at Arizona, which, by the way, the Cardinals have made it their business to blow games late. They steal a game there 2 weeks ago, but outside of that, they've been competitive, but they just can't score enough to win games.
No, they can't. I mean, last week they lost to the Raiders, and the Raiders offense continues to turn the ball over, but they still were able to beat Tennessee. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Cam Ward. Are those issues that he has right now, and again, he's a young player, are those correctable going forward with more talent around him and better coaching?
Yeah, they are, but I don't see – I think his ceiling is top 20. I didn't love this class last year. I didn't love him coming out. I think at best you got some kind of a version of Jalen Hurts, but he's not the runner that Hurts is. He's not as strong physically as Hurts is. So I think in order to maximize him and his ability, you have to play to his strengths. He does have the vertical arm talent, but you're going to have to put the pieces around him to allow him to push the ball down the field. He does have a quick release. You're going to have to emphasize the three-step game, quick 5 perimeter screens. You're going to have to build your offense, which everybody builds their offense around their quarterback to a degree. But with a kid like him, you're really going to have to do that because I don't think he has a dominant physical skill set. And I think ultimately what ends up happening is he's not a guy that's going to make the people around him better. It's going to be more about how the system utilizes him and allows him to have success. It's not going to be he's so good that he's going to elevate the play of his teammates. I don't think he's that guy. I don't think he's that type of quarterback.
If he came out in the 2024 draft where it was Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels and, of course, Drake May, where would he be slotted in comparison to Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, and Bo Nix? Where would he fit into that group?
As I always say, when it comes to the NFL draft, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. That would depend on the teams. There was a lot of quarterback-needy teams in that draft. That would depend on how those coaches and front office executives and scouts viewed him. I mean, he could slot anywhere from 4th to 7th. I mean, it depends on how coaches viewed Penix, how coaches viewed McCarthy, how coaches viewed Nix. We knew that the Denver Broncos, for example, were a team that was interested in trading up and landing one of these top 3 quarterbacks. When they couldn't do that, Sean Payton works out Bo Nix. They go to his pro day. They see the scheme fit. They're more than comfortable with him. They go with him. Atlanta really fell in love with Penix, that quick release, and Penix runs hot and cold, but you saw when he's on, he could be really good like you saw last week. In my view, I could see Cam Ward going ahead of McCarthy and Nix. I don't think he would have gone ahead of Penix because, again, a lot of people love the experience, the resume, the quick release, the vertical accuracy. There were elements of his game very similar to Ward, but there were elements of his game that I think would have given him a slight advantage. So if I had to slot him, I would say in that draft, he probably would have been the 5th quarterback. Maybe, I think he definitely probably goes ahead of Nix, but he probably would have slotted somewhere between 5 and 7.
Well, just go back to draft day this year. He wasn't even the most talked about quarterback, and he went number 1 overall. It was
but we know why
Shedeur
that
Sanders.
was the case.
It was Shedeur Sanders, and now here we are.
If it was Shedeur Jones, he wouldn't be that nearly talked up as much as he was.
True, but now we're 6 weeks into it, and who's the most talked about rookie quarterback? It's Jackson Dart because he's won 2 out of 3 games, and he plays for the New York Giants. I kind of bandied this about earlier in the week. Is he the least interesting first overall pick at quarterback that we've seen in recent years? I think you'd have to go back to maybe Jared Goff, who had a better skill set than Cam Ward. But with my point being, most of those guys that go number 1 are Heisman Trophy winners, or they won a national championship, or whatever, and they're the guy. Well, you have to go back to probably Jared Goff in terms of not a surprise first overall pick, but Cal didn't do a great job. He wasn't a Heisman finalist. They weren't in the national championship discussion. To find someone on par with Cam Ward as far as not being overly interesting, because after that it's been what, Baker Mayfield, right? I mean, you got Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, you have Trevor Lawrence, you have Caleb Williams, and you have Bryce Young. These are guys that are all won Heisman's or national championships. So, more interesting than, say, Cam Ward, who was like, they need a quarterback, and he's considered the best quarterback, so they took him.
Yeah, and look, Cam Ward was very businesslike. I mean, you could say that about him when he was an incarnate word. You could say that about him at Washington State. You could say that about him at Miami. He was very, very businesslike. He was never a flashy player. He just played. And I think one of the reasons why teams liked him was he was very mature. He had a very mature attitude. He's a worker. He was very businesslike. And so I think in a lot of ways, even if you didn't necessarily see him as the, quote, first overall pick, he was the best quarterback in that class. I mean, let's be clear here. I'm not a Shedeur Sanders guy.
No, I know.
And while I like Jackson Dart has surprised me. I liked Dart's skill set, and I felt he could be a starting quarterback in the league. I didn't see it happening this soon, though. Obviously, it happened out of necessity because Russell Wilson sucks. But at the end of the day, he's doing good things there. And I think Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka have done a really good job of playing to his strengths and bringing him along. Ward has upside. He can be really good. That arm talent is obvious. It's plus arm talent. He's athletic. He can play in the pocket. He can play out of the pocket. He can do those things. But he's also a guy, like any quarterback, really, he's also a guy that's going to be talent dependent. And do you have pieces around him? And right now they don't have enough. You have Calvin Ridley, you have Tony Pollard, but they don't have much else around him. And that's why I think ultimately when you look at today's game for the Patriots, it's really going to be about defending Pollard, because that passing game, if you can keep Ward in the pocket and throw him off his spot and make him have to force throws post-snap and try to make plays off platform, you should be in pretty good shape. Ken checks back in. Was the firing of Brian Callahan called for this week, or could it have been sooner for the Titans? Why wait for the Vrabel return week? Ken, I love that you asked that question, my friend. John, you know how I feel about this. We talked to each other throughout the week and planned the show. I thought it was gutless that they fired him this week. This team has been bad for 5 effing weeks. You could have fired him 2 weeks ago, but you didn't. You fired him this week to save face with your fan base, and I think it's gutless. And I don't care what anybody says to me to try to tell me otherwise. I think her firing him this week was Bush League. I think she should be embarrassed. I think you probably should have gotten another month before you made this decision. I mean, look, let's be honest here. This team's not going anywhere, so it wouldn't have mattered when she fired him. But to fire him this week with Mike Vrabel coming back to town, I think it's a cowardly move. I think it illustrates how much of a bad owner she is. And on top of that, I love that Vrabel said this week that he reached out to Callahan and expressed his thoughts on him being fired. I think it's great that he came out and said that. But I think them firing this week was a total cop-out.
I think you're giving too much credit to the Tennessee Titans and their ownership. I don't think they did it nefariously because they're not bright enough to do that. Like, I wouldn't even give them enough credit for firing the coach knowing that Mike Vrabel was coming in. I think she just reacted the way she normally reacts and fired the guy. Is it a bad look? Sure. I mean,
but John, do you really think, let's be honest here now, do you really think that this of all weeks was the weeks where she decided, all right, I've given it 6 weeks, he's got to go? And maybe that was her thought process. But at the end of the day, I find the timing very, very ironic. And the reason I find it ironic is because when the Patriots win today, because they should, when the Patriots win today, it would be a bad look for her and the organization knowing that the guy you fired 2 years ago is across the way and he just beat your team and beat the coach that you replaced him with. She didn't want to be put in that position publicly.
And that team's 5-2 and looks like a playoff team. And he's turned that around, obviously, with the help of the players. We know that. It's still a players' league. But Mike Vrabel has done a great job and is going to be in the running for a coach of the year if this continues. So, yeah, I just wouldn't give enough credit to Tennessee ownership for being competent enough to even know what the hell
Oh,
they're
I
doing.
disagree. I disagree wholeheartedly because I
I'm
don't
giving
think
them. I'm pushing back against them even more than you are. I think they're fools.
I agree. Well, right, and I get what you're saying, but as foolish as they are, I 100% believe in my heart of hearts that she made this move this week for PR purposes so that they can save face if the Patriots win. And unfortunately, it sounds stupid to say, but yes, these people are human beings. NFL owners are human beings. They read the papers, they watch the shows, they watch the highlights. They're on social media. They know, and if they're not doing those things, they have people that are doing those things for them.
Mm-hmm.
So my view, and again, I could be wrong, but in my opinion, I think she made that move this week because she knows it's a bad. The organization has been really bad under Callahan. They have, let's face it, they've been non-competitive. And again, I'm not saying she shouldn't have fired Callahan. He hasn't done a good job. He's been a bad head coach. But that being said, to do it this week, I think that's a little shady. I think it's, as the kids would like to say today, it's a little sus.
A little sus, as in suspect, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. No,
See,
not Susquehanna. Suspect.
I'm hip. I'm the hippest 62-year-old you know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're going to need a new hip.
No, actually, all of those things work just fine. They
Okay.
work
Well, good to
perfectly.
know.
I'm like a 40-year-old. I sound like Trump when he was talking about the size of his, you know what? Yeah, there's no problems down there with the size of my
I'm
hand.
good.
I'm very good down there. So when you look at what they're doing in Tennessee, I mean, maybe the long range plan,
Which is nothing.
which is nothing, exactly. Maybe down the road, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce buy the team once he retires. Yeah, maybe that would be something.
But no, down the road, their marriage will be over by then.
Well,
because it's a manufactured marriage by the NFL. They're not buying anything.
Well,
they're not really in love, John. Stop selling yourself on the idea that they love each other. They don't. They like each other because they're both stars. She's a mega star. He's a star. And they like being together because they can stay in the spotlight and be popular and be, front and center for everything. It's a manufactured engagement. It'll be a manufactured marriage. These two people don't love each other. I think it's a load of bullshit.
Haven't you ever seen Casablanca?
No, I'm 50, not 70.
Well, great films can be viewed at any point.
Not by this guy.
No, absolutely not.
You are watching the Patriots Pulse Preview Show. I'm your host, John Saranitas. As always, I'm joined by my partner, John Sapichetti. Patriots visiting the Tennessee Titans today. Patriots coming into this one at 4-2, tied for first place in the AFC East. Titans coming in at 1-5. Ken checks back in, and this is apparently turning into the Tennessee Titans preview show. Do you guys think that the Titans under interim coach Mike McCoy will come out with something to prove on offense to throw the Patriots off after the firing? Well, yeah, obviously. Of course they will. I mean, if you're asking us, do we think that they'll have a couple of tricks up their sleeve? Probably. I mean, look, their offenses sucked. At this point, if you're Mike McCoy and that offensive staff, you're throwing gum against the wall and hoping it sticks. So they're going to be willing to try anything to get this offense going. McCoy's a good coach. He's had success. He's also coached quarterbacks in his career with a similar skill set. One that comes to mind, of course, is Tim Tebow, although Cam Ward is a way better passer than Tim Tebow. But
so am I.
He did a great job with Tebow. He got a lot out of Tebow in Denver. Of course, the irony here is he coached under Josh McDaniels in Denver. He's been a head coach in the league before. He's a smart guy, a veteran coach. I think he has a shot to keep this job full-time if they win some games and stay competitive. But a lot of that will ultimately depend on what he does with Cam Ward. But absolutely, they've cooked up some stuff for this week. They got to get this offense going. She didn't fire Callahan just because Vrabel's coming to town. She also fired Callahan because they've been, as Sapp mentioned, putrid on offense. They look hopeless. Their hope is that Mike McCoy can get them going. So if I were the Patriots, I'd be on my toes today. They're going to have a couple of things cooked up here to try to make some big plays and stay in this game.
John, you have a bounce that happens when a coach gets fired. Over the last 15 years, 14-6 against the spread, not straight up, 14-6 against the spread when a coach gets fired and is replaced by the interim coach. So that would lead you to believe that, sure, the Patriots should win, will win, but it's going to be a tight game because everyone on that sideline of Tennessee is going to want to prove that they belong. This whole idea where players pack it in is nonsensical in the NFL. They're all playing for contracts for next year. Not a lot of them have guaranteed money
It's
for
way too early in the
2026.
season to be packing it in.
Exactly.
It's different. If this is the middle of December, end of December, maybe you could say that
Right.
with 2 or 3 games left, but not now.
Yeah, no, of course not. These
There's
guys,
plenty of football left.
A lot of young players still out there that want to prove their worth in the league, whether they're with Tennessee or whether they're somewhere else. And maybe Tennessee starts moving some pieces at the trade deadline. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, I think they're going to show up, play their asses off today, but they're just not good enough to win. But again, when you talk about 14-6 against the spread the last 20 years in the first week of a newly replaced head coach, those are pretty interesting numbers.
But then the question becomes, again, we don't know what the weather is going to be. It could potentially be a factor. But then the question becomes, are the Patriots now at that level after the last 2 years where we can definitively say it doesn't matter what Tennessee does, Patriots are the better team, they're good, they're going to go down there and take care of business?
I thought the difficult game in this 3-game road swing was last week against New Orleans. You wrote about that because they're coming off a huge win over Buffalo on Sunday night. Now you go to New Orleans, a team that, again, you should beat. And give the Saints credit. I think they're fairly well coached. They've got some nice pieces on offense. They moved up and down the field. The Patriots were good in the red zone, forcing New Orleans to kick field goals. That's what defenses have to do in the NFL. You can't just shut offenses down. There's no 85 Bears or 2,000 Ravens out there that are just going to totally knock out an offense. What you do in the red zone, make them kick field goals rather than touchdowns, is so important. So I don't think they've reached the stage now where they can just go out there and name their score. But I do think that this Patriots team, when you look at it, John, 3-0 on the road, 1-2 at home. Even the last 2 years, when they went 4-13 in each of those seasons, they played better on the road than they did at home. So what that means, I don't know. But I think they're going to be just fine today, but it's going to be tighter than people think.
All right, let me give you your Nashville AccuWeather forecast. Rain is expected to start in 11 minutes. It's only supposed to rain until about 11, and then it's just supposed to be windy, and then sun will be out by the second half, 3 p.m. So weather does not appear, the field will be wet to start the game, but the weather does not appear to be a factor. So then the Patriots definitely don't have an excuse. Ken checks back in, the mighty Ken Matthias. Who realistically can the Patriots trade for a running back or cornerback? Seen something this week. Josina Anderson said that the team is looking to add at cornerback, and contract/length matters. Any thoughts? I saw that too, Ken. I thought that was interesting that they're looking to add at corner, especially because you're going to have to give Christian Gonzalez the bag potentially as early as this offseason. You already paid Carlton Davis. Alex Austin has had some ups and downs, but for the most part, he's been okay. I didn't understand that, and I know that if you add a third corner and now you can move Austin and Jones around more, that will give them some flexibility potentially. And they do want to play a lot of man coverage if they could, because they want to get exotic with their fronts and their pressures. But all of that being said, I given where they're at and given what they're going to have to do with Gonzalez in the coming years, I wouldn't be looking to add a corner, or if I'm going to add a corner, I'm not looking to add one with a guy like L'Jarius Sneed, for example, who's going to play in this game today. You're not going to look to add a guy like that has term and some big money still coming their way, because if you add that guy, that could potentially be a signal that they may not want to invest in Christian Gonzalez long term, especially if they think he could potentially be a health risk.
Because at some point you're going to have to pay the quarterback in excess of $50 million. If he's as good as we think he is and he continues to progress the way he has this year, he's a $50 million a year quarterback. That's what the market is. Trayvon Diggs could be someone else, but he's also a big ticket item. He's had some injury concerns the last couple of years. Do you need to go in that direction? I'm still high on Marcus Jones. I think he's done a really good job as a third or fourth cornerback. I think he's a wonderful player. I'd like to see him a little bit more on offense because he has so much explosiveness. But I think they should be okay there. Carlton Davis has been somewhat of a disappointment, but he hasn't been healthy, and we know that Christian Gonzalez hasn't really been healthy. I think if you get those guys healthy, which is a big if in that sport, I think they'd be fine in that position. I would like to see them add something in the running game, because right now it's not been good at all. I think Ramondre Stevenson is not running as aggressively as we'd like to see because he's had the fumble issues. And TreVeyon Henderson, 6 games into his career, and that's not a lot of games, has been a disappointment to me. I think he was going to be a bigger part of the offense. Maybe he will be in the second half of the season, but they need some help at that position, especially after losing Antonio Gibson, who may have been their best running back for the first month of the season.
Yeah, I think it's a little too early to call Henderson a disappointment. I wasn't expecting him to come out of the gate and make a huge impact. I thought that his impact was going to be more gradual as the season went on. So, again, we're only going into week 7 here. We could potentially see him start to carve out a bigger role now because he is getting more touches with Gibson done for the year. Of course, the Patriots did elevate Terrell Jennings today, so technically he will be their third running back. He was also on the active roster last week, but he didn't get any carries. Just looking at some of the key advantages to today's game, John, when it comes to the Patriots offense versus the Titans passing game, and these are next-gen stats. They're brought to you by next-gen stats. I should actually do that like Chris Collins. All right, here we got your next-gen stats. All right, forget it. I just like doing the impression. I don't know what
you got to slide in, though, like he does.
Yes. Yeah. Well, no, I'm not sliding in. I mean, I'm in tight quarters here. I'm not sliding in anywhere. But I don't know what he was doing there at the end when he went, was he puking after he looked at these? Maybe he started puking when he looked at Tennessee's numbers statistically on offense.
Could be.
But really, when you look at it, when it comes to the quick passing game, Patriots have the number 1 quick passing game in the NFL. Tennessee is ranked 30th in defending the quick passing game. What is a quick passing game? Perimeter screens, 3-step passes, quick 5. That's your quick passing game. Deep passing game, Patriots are number 1 in the league in terms of throwing the football vertically. Tennessee is ranked 24th. Passing versus play action, Patriots are number 1 in the NFL. It's amazing how good their passing game has been. Tennessee is 19th in the league against play action. Throwing the ball against no pressure, Patriots are number 4 in the league. Tennessee is 28th in defending the pass with no pressure. And then throwing versus the blitz, Patriots are 3rd in the league in throwing the football versus pressure. Tennessee is 25th in generating pressure and defending the pass. So there you go. And when you talk about how putrid that Tennessee offense is, when you look at some of these underlying specific situational numbers, running the football from under center, Tennessee is ranked 28th in the league. Patriots are 2nd in the league in stopping the run when the quarterback is under center. Overall rush efficiency, Tennessee is 27th in the league. Patriots have the number 2 run defense in the league, number 3 run defense in the league. In terms of design runs, and now some of these stats get stupid. Tennessee is 25th in running the football and design runs, i.e. toss, power, one back power, counter, whatever you want to say, inside zone, outside zone. Rushing outside the tackles, Tennessee is 28th in the league, which when you look at Tony Pollard, that's kind of the strength of his game. He's really an off-tackle outside runner. Patriots are 4th in setting an edge and stopping outside runs. And intermediate passing, Tennessee 28th, Patriots 7th. So, yeah, needless to say, Tennessee blows on offense.
Yeah, and the Patriots defensively look very solid, as we think they have been, especially against the run. No one's been able to really run the football against the Patriots this year. And on offense, the Patriots have the most efficient passing attack in football. Right, when you think of all of it, I mean, they're that high.
Their running game hasn't been good, but their passing game
it's been so efficient. Again, Drake May, 10 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions. That's a great ratio. When it's 5-1, that's outstanding. So, yeah, he's just grown so much as a quarterback that look at those numbers. It almost makes it feel like the Patriots could be this close to being 6-0. And I'm not a Patriots honk.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not the guy who comes out here and is going to start, getting tickets for the Super Bowl. Although with the AFC the way it is now, I have no clue who's going to win it. But when you look at what they've done, they came close against the Raiders. They were a little out of sorts that first week. And then the Pittsburgh game, I thought they were the better team for 2.5 quarters.
Oh, absolutely. They gave that game away.
5 turnovers. You're not winning any games with 5 turnovers, especially when 2 of them are inside the 10 of the opposition. So you could make a case they could be 6-0. Now, they've won some close games. The Buffalo game was close. The Miami game, a play or two differently could go the other way. That's the NFL, right? 70% of all games are decided by a single score. But these numbers are really, really exciting to listen to because it just shows you how much the quarterback has grown. And when you have a guy like that, you have a chance in every game.
Speaking of how much he's grown, an interesting little nugget here for you. Drake May has completed 73.2% of his passes and is averaging 253.7 yards per game passing this season. Now, here's the part that I think is going to get your attention. May is the only quarterback age 23 or younger since at least 1950 to have a completion percentage of 70 or better and average at least 250 passing yards per game in their first 6 games of the season.
That's crazy. It really is crazy.
I mean, great start, man.
73% completion percentage is what? Drew Brees, Joe Burrow, those types of guys who are so accurate.
Oh,
this guy's
a top 10 quarterback statistically.
Right.
Look, he's a top 10 quarterback statistically, and I've said it for 2 years now. Physically, he's a top 10 quarterback. So now you're starting to marry the physical skills with the production on the field. That's how you become a top 10 quarterback.
It's almost as if last year he was in like raunchy sitcoms. Like we weren't taking him seriously as an actor, and now he's doing Shakespeare. Like it just flopped. And I know how much you detest Shakespeare, but I like to throw it in there once a week.
No,
right?
but I think that's a great analogy.
Yeah, I mean, he's not doing Hamlet yet. There's a few guys in the league that can do Hamlet. Maybe he'll get to that point. But I'm sure that just turned every listener off. I apologize.
But honestly, though, but even when you say there's a few guys in the league can do it, Patrick Mahomes turns over the ball as much as any quarterback in the league, and he's the so-called standard.
Yeah.
Josh Allen has not played well the last 2 weeks. So I think the gap between the so-called best guys in the league and banged up Burrow is out again. Lamar Jackson is out.
Banged up Burrow.
Banged up Burrow. That's his nickname.
That's my guy. I think he's the best quarterback in football, but you got to play.
Right. Well, that's the nickname, banged up Burrow. But my point is, I don't think the gap between him and those guys is that wide. I really don't. He's in the same neighborhood, in my opinion, right now as Justin Herbert. He's in the same neighborhood as some of those other guys. And so now it becomes a matter of, okay, can he get to the penthouse? Right now, he's in a suite. Can he get to the penthouse? Because at the end of the day, a lot of it will depend on McDaniels. And look, the other part of this that I think is important is McDaniels has to stick around. I think McDaniels, he won't be a candidate for NFL jobs, although you never know, man. Given the job he's done with this guy, why wouldn't someone else give him another shot? But I'm going to tell you right now, McDaniels is going to be a candidate for some of these college openings. He is. So this idea that, well, Josh isn't going anywhere, he's going to be here for 5 or 6 years. And McDaniels talked about this last week. He loves living here. And I think he wants to stay here. His family had stayed here all along. I think he wants to stay here and just let his family grow, and then down the road he makes a decision. But I'm telling you now, man, he's going to be a candidate for some of these college jobs, potentially. And don't be surprised. It's going to happen. You're going to hear his name mentioned in the NFL cycle too. It's going to happen because all it takes is that one owner, John, to say, you know what? I don't care what he did in Denver. I don't care what he did in Vegas. He's been far away from he's been removed enough from Belichick now that he's not going to think he's Belichick. Maybe if he gets one more shot, he comes in and he does it his way instead of being a bad Belichick impersonator, and maybe we'll win with him. The guy can coach offense. He can develop quarterbacks. If you can do those two things in this league, you will always be a head coaching candidate.
And the thing is, when he was a head coach in Denver, when he was a head coach in Vegas, he didn't have the quarterback. I mean, Derek Carr was a guy. He was good solid quarterback, but not upper echelon. And obviously we know in Denver he didn't have that. Kyle Orton was his guy, and then, he drafted Tebow in his second year. So if he goes to a place that has the guy with a skill set like Drake May, think of the wonders he will be able to do with that quarterback as a head coach. I think the coaching profession for him could be in college. Penn State's going to be available. Some other places will be available. How funny would it be if he replaced Belichick in North Carolina? That would be ironic, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. All right, what are 3 keys to the game today? What do you think are 3 things the Patriots need to do in order to win this football game?
On offense, they've got to make sure Jeffrey Simmons doesn't blow this game up. I mean, he is that good. He could obviously wreck your running game while also wrecking your passing game because, as you said, he's tied for first among all D tackles, interior linemen, and sacks. He's a fantastic player. So you got to keep him at bay. Turnovers, always the key. I mean, we can almost put that to the side and say every week that's obviously a key thing. Getting ahead is always a key, and I still think it's important now because now you're going to force Cam Ward to come from behind, which is something I don't think he can do, although he did against Arizona, but Arizona helped them along the way by doing stupid things. And the other key thing I think obviously is going to be some special teams, and the Patriots special teams have been good. They've really been good. They've got a touchdown from on a kickoff and a punt return for a touchdown. So they've had explosive plays on special teams, and they've covered pretty well. If they continue to hold up on that, don't give Tennessee short fields. Don't give them opportunities to get back in the game. Just kind of keep them at arm's length, keep them at a double score deficit, and you should be fine.
All right, what is your final score prediction here? How do you see this one ultimately playing out?
I still think it's going to be close. Now, if you'll learn to be that the weather isn't going to be as big a factor as I thought it might be, I still think it's going to be a close game because of that bounce factor. When you fire the coach and bring in the interim coach, the team does play better that week. Now, Tennessee sucks. We know that. And the Patriots are on a roll. I'm saying Patriots 20, Tennessee 16. I think it's going to be closer than people anticipate.
You've been on a roll this year with the NFL and the spread, but I think it'll be a much better game than people think. I agree with you there. I still think Patriots cover, though. They're favored by 7. The over-under is 42.5. I think the Patriots cover that number. I'm going to go 3 points north of you, though. I'm going to say 23-16 Patriots. I do think that they will ultimately cover. But to your point, I do think that there will be a bounce here with Mike McCoy taking over. I think Tennessee will play better, at least better than they played in recent weeks, but I think ultimately cream rises. Patriots are the better football team. They take care of business. John, great job as always, my friend. Greatly appreciate it, and let's do this again next week.
Absolutely.
All right. That'll do it for this week's episode of the Patriots Pulse Preview Show. For John Sapicheni, I'm John Sirianidis. Until next week, enjoy the game today, and we'll talk to you later. Peace.